Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento, an activist street fighter with earned degrees in law enforcement, theology, and philosophy. Listen and watch every weekday at 2 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and TrentoVision.com. Now, let's take a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Good afternoon on this absolutely beautiful first day of October 2012. 76 degrees in Boca Raton. The humidity is starting to dissipate, and all you crazy snowbirds are going to be coming down here shortly, but that's okay. You can spend money in the businesses that we didn't build down here. You're welcome. Come on down. But it is a beautiful afternoon, and I'd like you, as we get started on a fascinating hour together here, live from Boca Raton in the WNN studios, 1470 AM on your dial. If you got a little iPhone, you can download iHeartRadio, WNN, search in South Florida for WNN, Whiskey November, November. And, or you can go and watch this craziness at Trento Vision. The guy in the lead-in says .com, but that'll get you there, but it's actually .org. Either way, you'll get there, and you can watch what we're doing. But I'd like you, as we start, to think about any friends or relatives that you have who have kids. Think about one of the kids that's about 3.5 years old. Do you know anybody out there who has a kid, boy or girl, that's about 3.5 years old? I tell you what, if you can't come up with any humans, do you know any pets that are about 3.5 years old? It's not too long ago, if you have a little dog or a little cat. I don't like cats, but that's okay. We love everybody out there. Not too long ago, 3.5 years, if you picked up your little kitty cat, or you picked up your little dog, or you had a little boy or a little girl 3.5 years ago, not that long ago, actually, and you probably said, man, time has flown by. This kid was like he was born yesterday, but it's 3.5 years later. Well, you've probably enjoyed the time with your little baby who's 3.5 years old, or your little animal that's 3.5 years old. But in just those 3.5 years, one man has managed to do more damage to this great country of 330 million people than all the presidents before him over 236 years. Now, for those of you who are listening who are not with us, and by being with Tom Trento here at Trento Vision and our team, with the United West and Counter Jihad people and Tea Party people, being with us means you recognize the damage inflicted upon the United States of America, upon the Constitution, upon the principles of the free market, upon speech. Oh my God, we just got back from New York and Washington, D.C., where the First Amendment is under assault by this administration, notwithstanding the platitudes to the contrary. But if you're not with us, if you truly believe that a guy with a nice smile and he looks like a great family man, if you truly believe he has taken the difficult position this country was in 3.5 years ago, look in the eyes of your little 3.5-year-old doggy. That's how quickly this has happened. If you truly believe that that individual has taken this country that was in a difficult situation and so dramatically improved it that he needs 4 more years to make it even better, well then this show for the next 36 days, folks, we have 36 days before Western civilization will be determined, the direction of Western civilization. And how could one man, one individual, in 3.5 short years, so create so much discord, discomfort, and destruction to the essence of America? It's very simple. You see, this man hates 2 words. There are 2 words in America's in the English lexicon that our president repudiates. And he started understanding the offensive nature of these 2 words probably back in Indonesia when he was studying there. Certainly at Occidental in L.A. in the late 70s, early 80s. Certainly under the mentoring of his communist proto-father, Frank Marshall Davis. Yes, he's a card-carrying communist. The mentor to President Obama when President Obama was 10 years old and Frank Marshall Davis was 70 years old. I'm sure at his stint at Columbia under Rashid Khalidi and Anwar Said, the 2 words that our president repudiates were ingrained in him. And I'm sure at Harvard, in the various protests and ideological meetings with the leftists and punk artists and feminists and everything else that you can understand in Dreams from My Father or other publications. You see, this president repudiates 2 words, and the words are superpower. Superpower. Folks, the United States of America elected an ideologue. This is very important. Listen carefully. Elected an ideologue for an executive office. You see, the framers and the founders of this great country had a tripartite concept of governance so that there would be tension and balance in the 3 branches of government so that the best and the brightest of what the country had to offer can come to the forefront, and that which ought to be discarded through the filtering system of the 3 branches could be discarded. But when you elect an ideologue who belongs in the House of Representatives was designed for the firebrands, the citizen politicians, for the farmer and the blue-collar worker to take some time, go to Washington and communicate his views. And the Senate, the other half of our legislative branch, was designed for those who through the years the fire quelled itself a bit and they gained a bit of wisdom and knowledge. But that's the legislative branch. That's where the ideologues go. When you put an ideologue in the executive branch as the chief executive officer, if the framers would have wanted an ideological office, they would have named it the chief ideological office. But it was the chief executive office. I ask those of you who voted for President Obama and those who are planning to vote for President Obama, what kind of executive experience? Think about it. What kind of executive experience for the chief executive office of the world's only superpower did he have? Well, here's what happened, and here's what we'll deconstruct for you so you can vote intelligently on November 6th, 36 days from today, over the next 36 days. When you put an ideologue, someone who has a philosophical worldview that he desires to implement regardless of the position he holds, and you put that individual in an executive position, well, your 3-year-old little baby or your 3-year-old little cat running around the house exemplifies the measure of time in which an ideologue can destroy, create the destruction process. $5 trillion in debt. How do you take a superpower from a position of being the most strongest economic and military power on the face of the earth. How do you take superpower out of that? You become the chief executive officer of that country, and you can get the job done in a mere 3.5 years. And I submit for your consideration, voters, that America, formerly known as the world's only superpower, has been dissected, if you will, of the term super and the term power. Who in this world? The Chinese? The Russians? Oh, no. It must be the Arab Islamic community, where on June 4th, 2009, our chief executive ideologue traveled to begin the ideological process of taking America from a superpower to another run, to just another country, so that egalitarian, that concept of equal strength among all countries, can be brought about. Because as an ideologue, trained under the head representative of the PLO for the United States, Edward Said, President Obama learned that superpower means imperialistic colonialism, and the way you create enemies is to project your economic and military power. We today are a military joke in many, many respects. And I dare say, and if you talk to people in theater who either talk quietly to you or out of uniform, they will tell you we've lost Iraq and Afghanistan. Just today, over the weekend, several Americans killed once again, green on blue. And where is our chief executive ideologue? Campaigning, smiling, waving his hand, and pushing out platitudes that ought to insult every single voter in this country. Osama, I always get those two mixed up. Osama is dead and General Motors is alive. If you clap or cheer or chant USA when you hear that, God help your soul. That is not a foreign policy. That is not a national security doctrine. That's campaign rhetoric for weak-minded people. It's nonsensical. First of all, General Motors is a disaster when you peel away the reality of what occurred at General Motors, and we will do that in the days ahead. You'll see that thing is a pumped-up scam where our government is buying most of the cars that they're making. Oh, that's a pretty good deal. Number two, Osama is dead. Well, just the other day on September 11th, in Egypt and Libya, Muslim jihadis were saying, President Obama, there's 1 billion Osamas out here. So how does this doctrine of appeasement and weakness work with a violent, virulent enemy who senses their manifest destiny, senses America's weakness, senses America's powerlessness? These are very difficult days, ladies and gentlemen, and we're not here to tickle your ears and hope we can wave a magic wand and make things better. No, not at all. We're here to investigate and expose the failures of this administration, in particular on national security issues, and then so shake your world, so shake it up that if you haven't participated in the electoral process, you go, you know what, I better. And to you 1 million Christians, yeah, there's 1 million Christians in Florida, people that believe in Jesus Christ, believe in the Bible, believe in God, but you know what? You can't find your way to a damn election, to the poll on election day. You just can't find your way there. You're too busy, or you think, well, God will take care of it, or some nonsensical belief like that. To you 1 million people in this state, wake up. You have a moral and ethical responsibility to participate in the country in which you receive the benefit of a stable, civilized government. That doesn't happen by itself. You have to participate. This is participatory democracy. You have to think what's good, what's bad, and if you're informed by the Bible, that'll inform your ethics, it'll inform your choice of individuals, it'll inform your understanding of the importance of participating in the process. You cannot be a vital and successful Christian, I'm speaking as somebody that knows this stuff fairly well as a Christian, without participating in the ethical decisions that are entrusted to citizens in a republic like this. You got to participate. And for those of you who are voting for President Obama, I would just ask you to really think if this is a good public policy decision. Well, he inherited a ship underwater from George Bush, and you have our pledge here at the United West, Trento Vision. None of us will be voting for George Bush on November 6th, okay? That horse is dead and buried, and move on with life. Well, he inherited a ship underwater, and it only has sunk 2 more miles underwater, and if it wasn't Barack Obama, it would have sunk 4 miles underwater. That's nonsensical. When he came into office, he said, "I will turn this around, or do not vote for me. I will have a transparent administration, or do not vote for me. I will cut the deficit and the debt tremendously." It's increased tremendously. So if you're only voting for an individual who you believe will give you stuff, then really you're talking about Santa Claus and Christmas time, not the serious decision necessary in 36 quick days. Took 3.5 years to get this country into the mess it's in. Mitt Romney, and truth be told, Mitt Romney was not my first choice when all the Republicans were running. But right now, Mitt Romney is so far heads above Barack Obama in what this country needs, a chief executive officer. Understand, we have the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Mitt Romney is not running for a judge of the Supreme Court. He's not running for the U.S. Senate. He's running to be the guy that deals with the economic and large issues of this country from an executive position. You've got to have a strong economy in order to have a strong military and a strong national defense. That's what he does. How could anybody on the, I didn't plan on all this stuff. I got other stuff to do here. But how could anyone look at a man who independently is worth $250 million and gives away millions upon, he pays a low rate of taxes. God bless him. Wouldn't all of us want to pay less money to the federal government so it could shrink by design as opposed to the destructive way we have to do it now? Mitt Romney ought to be recognized as an individual that's doing the right thing. Legally paying as little bit to the federal government, the whole idea of the framers and founders, small federal government, not bloated the way it is. He made $250 million on his own. How many of you did that out there? He's a chief executive officer of organizations that hire chief executive officers. That's the need for America right now, not an ideologue. Vote President Obama out of office on November 6th, and we'll give him, we'll come up with some way he can be the ideologue emeritus. He can run around the world doing whatever he wants to, but he's not allowed to have the keys to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. How about that? Can we all agree on that? Thank you very much. I got to get a drink of water here. What's that?
We have phone calls coming in. Okay.
We're going to bring our guest on in a little bit and pick up on this theme.
A couple little corrections. It's not just 1 million. It's more like 3 million voters who haven't voted. But in reality,
you mean the Christians?
Yes, that's correct. And you're being very, very conservative.
Yeah, we did the analysis, the demographic analysis of voters in Florida. We have 19 million people, and there's about 3 million. But in that, my elementary school training and math training was in New Jersey public schools. I factored it. I cut off 30%, and then another 30%. And I was left with 1 million. Okay. But the important number, Mark and everybody else here, CJ, Mike, and Joe, and everybody. The important number is 204,577. I've memorized that number. That's the number of votes that President Obama beat John McCain by in 2008. 204,577. So out of you million Christians, come on, man. We only need 200,000 of you. We also have 1.6 million, 1.6 million, 1.6 million veterans, 700,000 of whom voted for President Obama in 2008. Hey, guys, you took an oath to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. We have a president that when he came into office, he was going to prosecute the SEALs, the Navy SEALs. Then when he realized the political expediency of being on the side of the SEALs as the world's most preeminent fighting force, he all of a sudden is their great friends. Except for last week where he dropped the ball badly regarding the U.S. Navy SEALs. You see, there's two guys, Glenn Darty and Tyrone Woods. When President Obama spoke about their bravery in defending our murdered, assassinated Ambassador Chris Stevens in Libya, he said that Woods and Darty were two former SEALs who were dispatched to the security delegation, two people, for the ambassador. That's not true. The security delegation for the ambassador was basically a bunch of Libyans. And Darty and Woods, two SEALs, were in Libya, most likely under the direction of one of the three-letter agencies, possibly the CIA. They were looking for the weapons. First of all, we should never have gone into Libya. We should have let them self-destruct in many ways. That's another issue. But Darty and Woods, two former SEALs, were hired back to one of our intelligence agencies to look for the weapons that were stolen when Gaddafi fell, particularly weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, and maybe other types of weapons. And they were on the compound in Benghazi, but about a quarter of a mile away, and they heard distant automatic gunfire. And they called very quickly and saw that the compound was under attack. Their job was not to defend the ambassador. This is just coming out now. And these guys were unbelievable heroes. Two guys ran in to fight 200, but they're SEALs. And they held them off for 2 hours, and they rescued 20 of the people that were in the compound. The story's just starting to come out in more detail. And but this administration doesn't want all of those facts to come out because there was no real security protection for the ambassador. I'm going to probably tomorrow get into great detail on the Benghazi Gate. I'm going to walk you through a timeline that's frightening. This failure by this administration, where 4 Americans have been killed and 2 embassies, an embassy and a consulate, basically devastated, and changed the paradigm in the Arabic Islamic world to show that we are just weaklings ready to be trampled. This has the potential to bring this administration down. This is 50 times worse than Watergate. We're going to get into Benghazi Gate tomorrow.
It's just one lie after another lie after another lie. I mean, the whole Navy SEAL thing never made any sense at all because Navy SEALs don't protect embassies. I mean, that's Marines and other personnel. And then this lie after lie after lie after lie. It just keeps snowballing, Tom.
No, I know. It was and is. But you know what? How does this president, here's a question for everybody, how does this president get away with this stuff? Well, it's very simple. Mm-hmm. Very, very simple. The press corps right now is between 25 years old and 50 years old, for the most part. And if you look at the mainstream media, these folks were schooled at one of the Ivy League schools, and they were schooled not in historic Aristotelian journalism, logical journalism. They were schooled in an ideology, a center-left ideology,
Exactly.
and they understood the power of the pen to spin a story in a particular direction or to provide cover. They got their guy. They all want to see the United States taken down a notch. So whenever anything bad, I mean, can you imagine George Bush? George Bush flew over Katrina. We had the National Guard, everybody else there. He flew over and was castigated to this day. President Obama, on the hour that 4 Americans, their bodies are not, we don't know the situation, he gets on a plane and flies to Las Vegas. If I had to vote ethically and morally, that would be a determining factor for me. I could not in good conscience vote for a guy who abandoned his post. Oh, no, he did it from Air Force One. He went to Vegas and partied with his friends, voters. You don't like to hear this stuff, and your knee-jerk reaction is, well, Mitt Romney is a Mormon, or Mitt Romney doesn't like 47% of the people, or Mitt Romney, or whatever it is. You know?
But what does it take,
Wake up, please.
What does it take to, like, oh, I got to do a fundraiser? We just had 4 people killed. You know, what does it mentally take to do that? It's amazing.
You're not kidding. All right, this is Tom Trento, Trento Vision here on the 1st of October, beautiful fall day in Florida. We're broadcasting out of the studios of WNN 1470 in Boca Raton. Or you can call your friends up and watch this thing on TrentoVision.tv. We're going to bring, do we have Jeff on? In 5 minutes. Okay. We have a friend of ours, a guy from New York, who has a bit to say about President Obama and Jewish people. And today, by the way, CJ, is Sukkot, right? Sukkot. The Feast of Tabernacles, if I'm not mistaken. And every good Jewish person should have a tabernacle in your backyard, correct? Our resident Jewish scholar is nodding yes. Oh, they can see you. If you put your head over here, they can see you. If my Christian brothers and sisters have not participated in dinner in a tabernacle, a little tent in the backyard of Jewish folks, and the whole idea, I know the idea, but can you talk from back there? Okay, don't talk there. The idea, correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, the idea is that the people of Israel, through the trials and tribulations over a 3,000-4,000 year history, often found themselves camping outside because there was no one home, and they had to put a tent up and travel and follow Hashem and eat on the run, basically, and as a remembrance of the difficult history that God has brought Jewish people through this time of the year for a couple of days, today and tomorrow. Most families, many families, will go and have their meals in the little tiny tabernacle, and some of them, I've been in some of them that are like built to scale. They're pretty cool, actually. And there's certain foods you eat, and the branches and the leaves and all that stuff. It's cool. Cool. And for all my Jewish friends, no, I'm not a Sephardic Jew. You know, though people think, and the Arabs think, well, you got Arab blood in you. I'm Italian, I'm Sicilian, okay? For whatever that's worth. All right, it's the bottom of the hour, and we're having a wonderful time here in Florida. We will take some calls today, and you can talk to Jeff, because he's going to stir you up a bit, and I'll answer any questions. Jeff will be on in about 5 minutes. And I'll give you a little background on Jeff Wiesenfeld. He is a executive. He manages money in Manhattan. And he's a successful businessman. And then in an effort to give back to the community, he dedicates his service to the school systems, the college systems in New York City. He's a regent at CUNY, C-U-N-Y, And in that capacity, he's also a very intelligent, ethically minded Jewish man. And in that capacity, he's had a few run-ins with Black Panthers and others that have become very public, and he speaks his mind. Well, he's got a few things to say about the Jewish voter. So if you're listening or watching right now, call your friends up. You're going to hear a guy who has great credentials on New York Jewishness, and his good friend, former Mayor Ed Koch. Jeff is. I'll let him tell you what his search for the soul of Ed Koch is all about. But if you want to give us a call, it's 888-565-1470. 888-565-1470. Tom Trento.
Would Jeff been down there on the Muslim Day parade, marching down the street with them and speaking on the stage? Is that the type of person Jeff is?
Jeff? Oh, would he be on the stage? You know what? Let me see what's going on here. Mark's referring to, the voice you hear in the distance is Mark Campbell.
It's actually God. So.
It's actually God. I had a little different opening, but my blood was boiling a little bit on this Obama thing. We just got back. This is our first day in the comfort and luxury of our nice studio here at WNN in Boca Raton. We've been on the road, as you know, for a week. We went last Saturday, the 22nd. And on Sunday, the 23rd, we went to the 27th Annual Muslim Parade in Manhattan. Boy, oh boy. If you haven't seen the video we put out about State Senator Tony Avella blowing off the insane jihadis, you got to check that one out. You can find that. Send us a note. Figure out how to get in touch with us. And how could you get in touch with us? Tom@TrentoVision.tv. You can send me an email at Tom@TrentoVision.tv, and we'll tell you where that video is, or you can just Google Senator Avella and Muslim Parade. We busted that thing open and proved that the moderate Muslim dignitaries running the Muslim Parade are basically jihadis through and through. And it shows in many respects the incompatibility, folks, with Sharia-compliant Islam and American democracy.
Actually, that video is actually on the United West website.
Is it up there?
On the main slider. So
okay. You can go
to
the
other organization that you're aware of.
Yeah, theunitedwest.org. You can go there to see that. And then Monday and Tuesday, we were in Manhattan, reporting live from the United Nations, that whole area. Wednesday, we flew to D.C. On Wednesday, and many of our Jewish friends have not seen this, we did a Yom Kippur special. We shot in front of the United States Holocaust Museum on 14th Street, right in downtown D.C., and we spoke about the importance of Yom Kippur to the Jewish world. And then we spoke about 39 years earlier, the Arab coalitions attacking Israel on Yom Kippur. And then we made an application to what was going on in the United Nations on that day with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and President Morsi attacking Israel once again on Yom Kippur. Go watch the Yom Kippur special, TrentoVision.tv. On the right-hand side, the show will say Yom Kippur. Really an interesting show. We go through the disparate armament and manpower divisions between the Israeli force and the belligerent Arab coalition. 3-1 advantage of Arab fighters over Israeli fighters. Israelis were attacked on their most high holy day. And a 2-1 advantage in military hardware over the Israelis. The only advantage the Israelis had were fighter aircraft, and thank God they had that advantage, which turned the tide, plus a little miracle from God. Then on Thursday of last week, where were we? We were at the White House. In front of the White House, reporting on the fun and games going on inside of there. Friday, we did our show from the Supreme Court. talking about the effort of the Islamic world to suppress our free speech. All of those shows are archived, TrentoVision.tv. Go watch them. Don't watch these crazy TV shows at night. Watch our stuff. You learn something. Do we have Jeff?
Yeah, Alan B.
What's that?
Alan B. online.
Alan B. All right, let's get Alan B. on first, then we'll bring Jeff on. Alan B., hi, you're on with Tom Trento, Trento Vision, on a beautiful October day in Boca Raton.
Hey, Tom, I want to thank you and Mark and Alan for what you guys did in New York City. I was glued to my computer, and I saw what you guys did live in New York City. I mean, God bless you guys. Too bad you don't have the audience that MSNBC has, and Ed Schultz and Rachel Maddow. People would learn so much more from you guys rather than watching that crap on TV.
Thank you.
But I have to tell you, I just got off the phone about an hour ago from a dear friend of mine who is Jewish, who is affluent, who is absolutely has fallen for this crap with there are good Muslims in this country and good Muslims in the world, and he has fallen for this crap that we can't attack Iran because if we do, there'll be mass slaughter. These people are just talking mantra. They have no solution. So I said, what is your solution with Iran? He said, we have to talk to them. How many people believe that if you talk to these people, they're going to change? I mean, what you guys are doing, you're showing the radicalism, the craziness of them, and their primitiveness of them.
Well, Alan, these were the moderate Muslims in New York City. These are the ones who were led down the street by the New York City Police Department. These are the ones who are heralded by the city councilman as the moderate Islams, and they're up there calling for suppression of the First Amendment, and waving the black Al-Qaeda flag. Come on, give me a break.
Well, they're mesmerizing the American community to believe that there are really distinct factions within the Muslim community. The good and the bad. And the good, to me, there is no such thing as good Muslim. Where is Zuhdi Jassa? I mean, who else is there?
Yeah, no, and we're going to have to pick up on that, Alan B., because you raise a great point. And the answer to your friends would be, okay, what would have to occur in their thinking, in their worldview, in their history, in their belief system in order for them to change their mind? And when you take it a step later, everybody operates from a Western construct. Oh, you just give a good reason and people change their mind. Well, you're dealing with a whole different mindset, so you have to ask the people that are proposing that proposition, what has to change in Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's mind in order for him to say, you know what? All of a sudden, I like Jewish people, and I'll go into that in detail because I've spent a lot of time studying the mind, the Islamic mind, and history, and I kind of think they got to change our mind, and I kind of think they realize they're changing our mind. 25 years ago, 50 years ago, Americans would have said, what are you, friggin' kidding me? Now we go, yeah, okay, well, we just have to learn to accept and understand. So thanks for calling, Alan B. We're going to move on with our guest. He is on the line. And hang on, though. I mean, keep listening because I think as a former New Yorker, I think you'll find this very interesting. Jeffrey Wiesenfeld, are you there?
Yes, Tom. It's a pleasure to be with you. You're a real hero.
No, we're a team here. One team, one fight. Thank you for what you do. I've been following
some. You do it full time. I see the videos. You're full time out there.
Yeah, well,
we're more exposed.
We follow your exploits too, and we make a lot of noise and try to wake people up. And looks like you've been doing that. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what this deal is with former Mayor Ed Koch.
Well, Ed Koch is an unusual person, mostly because here you have an elderly person approaching the age of 90, just a year or two out, who is out of office more than 2 decades, nearly 23 years, and is more relevant in terms of moving votes than most people who are in office today, including some that held even higher office than that which he held as mayor of New York for 12 years. He's a remarkably smart man, He always was fond of saying when I worked for him that he was a liberal with sanity. I had basically a 21-year career in government. I was in the FBI for 4 years, almost 5 years actually, in the Foreign Counterintelligence Division. Then I went to work for Ed Koch. I had worked as a volunteer in his first campaign when I was still in college. But my first campaign was for Senator Scoop Jackson. That's when the Democratic Party knew how to produce really great people. And I worked for Koch, and then he lost in 1989, which was devastating to me. I came from a poor family. It was the only time I was unemployed. And then eventually I found my way after a stint with Senator D'Amato to Governor Pataki. And that took me all the way till the end of 99, time period of 21 years, and then I became an investment manager. But I've always remained very active in public and private boards, and one board I've sat on in particular, City University, which is the largest university, public university, urban university in the United States. You get exposed to a lot of things. But coming now to Ed Koch for the moment, he, as you may recall, and your listeners do, about a year ago, he was so angry at Obama for his treatment of Bibi Netanyahu, the outrageous excuse made of so-called settlements, which is simply Jews or any other people living where everyone has a right to live, and exploiting that issue as a means to have Secretary of State Clinton attack Israel, and the treatment of Netanyahu while they are preparing to deal with an existential threat and the so-called Islamic Spring, which is really a world revolution. It's an attempt to bring the barbarians back to the gates of Vienna. It's just an incredible situation. And Ed got really upset, and then he endorsed Bob Turner, who had never been in government. He was a media fellow, and he got him elected. There is no question, anyone you ask in a district that is overwhelmingly Democratic, that he was able for the first time in over 100 years to get a Republican Congress member in that district. And it was because of what he said. He says, I'm doing it because he threw Israel under the bus, and he has to learn a lesson. Well, what happened was, shortly thereafter, they did get a lesson. The president invited Ed Koch to come down. The president does have infinite charm for those who are willing to take it in. But I'm going to reveal something to your listeners that's never been published, and Ed might get angry about it. I respect him. I revere him. But I know he's in great pain right now. So you're getting something that's not been printed anywhere. He went to the president, and he asked the president to give certain assurances on what he would do at the UN last year, namely stifling illegitimate declarations of statehood by the Palestinians, because the only way to gain any peace is if they were able, at some point, maybe decades from now, maybe millennia from now, to accept the fact that there is a Jewish homeland, there is a Jewish state, has the right to exist, then maybe there would be the possibility of some real negotiation. But it's this Islamic triumphalism which envelops that whole part of the world, including the Palestinians, that it can't happen. So the president did go to the UN, and he did, in fact, direct his UN representative to oppose this unilateral declaration and deny the sufficient number of votes on the Security Council. I then saw Ed Koch, because he started to send out emails stating that for the purpose of preserving the social safety net, and because the president heeded his advice on Israel, he was back, quote, on the Obama bandwagon. And I said, what are you talking about? How can you do that? And he confided, saying, well, look, I know that many Jews are not going to follow me back, but he is a president. I asked him to do something. He spoke to me, and he did it. So I really was not in a position to argue with him. Now, a few months later, what has transpired since he went back on the bandwagon? Let's just do a quick recap. General Dempsey, by the way, remember, your listeners should know, I'm sure if they don't know, that Colonel Allen West can tell them that a four-star general serves at the pleasure of the president. So understand what we're talking about. General Dempsey says that we don't want to be complicit with Israel if they are forced to attack for self-preservation. General Petraeus, now in the CIA, questions Israel's ability to strike. Leon Panetta, the defense secretary, starts putting out last spring all kinds of dates that he believes that Israel would attack, all in an attempt, of course, to throw Israel off guard so that the goal is just to stifle Israel from defending itself so that they can get through this election and get the president reelected. That doesn't mean that they give Israel the clear to go forward at any time, but right now that's the issue. And you had no less than 3 United States intelligence officials leak cooperation between Israel and Azerbaijan to facilitate landing strips and refueling capability in case Israel tries to attack Iran. And, of course, Hillary Clinton putting in her 2 cents, and on and on. Any Jew out there in Florida, do you believe that this is all coincidence? How stupid are we? It's amazing that the Jewish people are the only people in this country that vote solidly against their own interests. And so I begged Ed Koch, and other people of far greater prominence have called him and said, Ed, you got to go back. You see that this is no good. You see that if he's reelected, it's a terrible situation for Israel. She's really all alone. And he said, and Michael Goodwin published it in last week's New York Post, quoting Koch as saying, I don't trust the president on Israel. I don't trust him.
Wow.
But intimating, it's in print. I didn't make it up. Michael Goodwin printed. He interviewed Ed Koch on that. But I believe what's happened here is that Koch cannot bring himself to reverse himself. And my appeal to him, and that of more important people than me, have appealed to him and said, Ed, please, you don't want in your final years, you never know when you're 90 years old which could be your last major election. You don't want to be responsible for re-electing someone that you know he will never have the emotional or intellectual capability to preempt Iran. He might send some military hardware to try to do something to Iran after Israel is bombed. What good does that do us? That's a correct calculation that Khamenei made. He says, we can destroy Israel 1 bomb, so we'll sacrifice 30 million Muslims. What the hell do we care? Because they don't value life. Jewish people, Christian people, Hindu people, moderate Muslim people, we value life. That's our weakness. They value death, the fundamentalists, the Islamists. We value life. We're begging Ed. Now, here's the thing that I'm putting out there because I feel so desperate on this that I have to do it. I was invited last Thursday, just by coincidence, to a reception with some Israeli officials and Jewish community leaders here in New York at the home of a prominent philanthropist while the UN General Assembly was still going on here. That I call it the annual, we in law enforcement used to call it the annual mutt patrol, mutt as in mongrelized dogs, because that's what they are. There are very few decent human beings in the UN today. So I'm at this reception. They had the Rwandan ambassador because there happens to be denial of their genocide when the Hutus killed 800,000 Tutsis by machete, which was also horrific. So they have in common with us that our genocide is denied by Ahmadinejad, their genocide is denied, and it was an interesting evening. And all of a sudden, there's 35 or 40 of us in the room, and who walks into the apartment? Sheldon Adelson and his wife. Now, I had met Sheldon Adelson a couple of times, so I can't say that he's a friend of mine. He's just someone that I met. Last time I saw him was when he donated $25 million to modernize Yad Vashem. I went over to him. I said, Mr. Adelson, I want you to do something. What is that? I want you to call Ed Koch. Why should I call Ed Koch? He's a Democrat. He doesn't know what he's doing. I said, but you know what he did last year. You know he has a conscience. Maybe you can move him. Other people have tried. Maybe you can call him. He agrees to call him. He's a gruff and courtly guy at the same time, this Sheldon Adelson. I give him Koch's home number, his office number. The next morning, I get an email at 8:20 a.m. from his assistant, Betty, who says he can't find Mr. Koch. I said, can't find him? I tracked down through his law office that he's giving some kind of lecture at Fordham University. He'll be back at the office 10:30. I call Betty back. Betty says, Mr. Adelson will be en route to his plane. He's got to go back to Vegas. I said, please have him try from the car. He calls up, and from what I understand transpired, Koch picks up the phone because, I'll be honest with you, I sandbagged the poor old guy. He says, who is this? He says, it's Sheldon Adelson. He says, give me a number. Let me call you back, as if to say I don't believe it's Sheldon Adelson. So Adelson says, where are you? He says, what do you mean, where am I? I'm in my office, 1290 Avenue, Americas. I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Wow.
He went Sheldon Adelson, with his cane, so dedicated and concerned for Israel, that he took himself with his driver to Koch's, delayed his flight, and I know for a fact, and Michael Goodwin knows for a fact, and we all know for a fact, that Adelson argued with Koch for a full hour.
Wow.
What came of that, I do not know. Nobody knows. But the point is, there are many other people speaking to Ed. He would be a Jewish national hero if he does this, even if the liberal Jews in the various establishment organizations will be ticked off. You see, I'm a son of 2 Holocaust survivors, and my wife is a daughter of same. There's a difference, and I don't want to take up your whole show, but I just want to make one more point.
This is great stuff for our audience, Jeff. So we got about 5 minutes, about 4 minutes. So
I'll be briefer than that just to finish off.
Yeah, no, you take it. This is tremendous. Go ahead.
The origin of Jewish liberalism. Jews were persecuted for 2,000 years. Along came socialism and communism in Eastern Europe, the nascent movement towards that. And they felt that this secular paradise would take them away from the persecutions that they had for 2,000 years. And Jews became Bundists and laborites and socialists and this and that. And those Jews who came here over a century ago to the United States, they carried that liberalism with them. This country, of course, turned out to be a totally different deal. It was the first hospitable place for Jews, really hospitable, since the time of before, prior to the Second Temple. They found freedom. But they maintained this liberal, left-wing outlook that doesn't demand reciprocity of people who may be an enemy, and it's remained. Those Jews, like my parents and my wife's parents, who came here after World War II in the late 40s, they suffered genocide. And they saw that communism didn't help them, and that all of the trappings of Eastern Europe didn't help them. It made it worse. So we have learned a little more on average than those Jews who are descendants of the ones who came 100 years ago. The bottom line is, every Jew has to wake up. Every American has to wake up. You cannot appease Islamists. You cannot appease totalitarians. You can't. You can't do it. It's like, Lars Erik Nelson once said that liberal Jews, meaning the Jews who belong to conservative and reform movement, I mean, I'm not proclaiming to be some great Orthodox Jew. I'm just saying that by percentage, Jews who belong to the conservative and liberal movements of Judaism, they're like it's like the Democratic Party with a few holidays thrown in.
That's a great way of putting it. Here's what we're going to have to do, because I got about 100 questions for you.
We got about 50.
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes. We will have you back in the near future, and what I'll do is we'll have you back for the whole hour, and we'll open it up for calls. And you do realize we're broadcasting at Boca Raton. There are 500,000 Jewish people in the sound of our voice, and you got about a minute. What is your 1 minute message to the typical Debbie Wasserman Schultz Jewish people here in South Florida?
My friends, in the past, we all have different issues. We all worry about social justice issues, especially the liberal Jews amongst us, and social justice and abortion and all of these wonderful things. They're all very legitimate issues in gay marriage. I have no quarrel with people who have their own opinions on these issues. But let me just say one last thing, and that is the following. There was a film made by Gregory Peck prior to the birth of Israel. We Jews had no more rights in this country than blacks did before Israel was created. And Think about gypsies for a minute. Do you think about gypsy people? The answer is you probably don't. And the reason you don't is because they are people without a homeland. People without a homeland are vulnerable. This is not like the first and second temple. If Israel goes down, every Jew will be diminished. We will never recover as a people. There will be no 2,000-year diaspora where we come back. It will be the end. A liberal rabbi, Rabbi Wolpe, a liberal rabbi, a reform rabbi, he didn't mention Obama or Romney by name. He says, I will vote simply as a one-issue person for the first time in my life, whoever I think is most likely to stop Iran. Here's a hint. It's not Barack Obama.
Okay, Jeffrey Wiesenfeld, thank you very, very much. We will have you back in the near future. Your words are essential for the next 36 days, particularly in this state. So I appreciate everything you're doing, and we will have you back. Thanks for coming on
it's
today.
Very mutual. Believe me, you're doing yeoman's work.
I know. We're all together on this.
May it spread and grow.
May it
spread and grow.
We'll be in touch. Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right. Wow.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The whole Sheldon Adelson story is pretty
The
amazing.
Adelson story is great. All of this has been very interesting, and folks, tell your friends to go to TV and replay today's show. Every Jewish person in Florida needs to listen and watch it. Thank you very much, guys. Joe, CJ, Mark, Mike, everyone signing off. Tom Trento. We'll see you tomorrow. Dr. Rich Swire will be our guest tomorrow.
Thanks for tuning in to Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Your host, Tom, street fighter with earned degrees in law enforcement, theology, and philosophy. To reach Tom, call 561-319-5533, 561-319-5533, or email him at tom@trentovision.com. Tune in again weekdays at 2 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
If you would like quality diamonds at exceptional prices, then come to Tom Tutman's Diamond Mine. If you would like sparkling 2-carat Marquise cuts for only $49, then come to Tom Tutman's Diamond Mine. If you would like the personal service you've come to expect from Tom Tutman himself, then do not come to Tom Tutman's Diamond Mine, because Tom Tutman passed away last week at the age of 47.